and welcome to the channel. My name is Mel and I am a crafter and knitter living on the Orkney Islands off the north coast of Scotland. If you are new here, then welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, then welcome back. This is kind of an impromptu recording day. I hadn't planned to record today, so it was a bit of a rush around to get organised, but I'm going to try and get this done and try to do recording in between the renovation noises and my husband John in the next room. Well, it's not really a next room, it's kind of next to next room, but it's kind of L-shaped. He is working on our sun lounge still, and we'll probably be making soaring and banging noises, so I will try to edit those out as best as possible. I'm going to try and record in as little takes as possible as well, which is always a bit of a struggle to reduce down the editing that I need to do later today. So I have a few projects since my last episode. Just trying to remember if I've forgotten anything. Oh yeah, and I will link everything down below in the description box and have all the links and such like. What I'm wearing, I am wearing my Wild Posy sweater, the Lunar version by Melody Hoffman, and I did talk about this in more detail on my previous episode, but basically it is a very lightweight sweater knit in drops air, and it is lovely and it is cozy, and I'm really happy that I made it. Okay, so what finished objects do I have? I think all I have finished is socks, but I also have several new cast-ons since my last episode, including a new garment cast-on. I better slow down talking or it's all going to come out gobbledygook. When I edited my last video, I realised that I actually talk quite quickly when I'm recording, so I do apologise, especially as I have a bit of an accent that sometimes it might not come through clearly what I have said. Okay, so let's get started. So like I said, the only finished objects that I have this episode is socks, so we'll quickly go through those before we can move on to works in progress. So if you've been here for a while, you'll know that I'm making myself a box of socks this year. I plan on making a box of socks for my husband next year, maybe even another one for myself, but not to the scale I have this year. I must have at least 24 pairs of socks. So my sock drawer is going to be very, very full come the end of December. So over the last few weeks since I last recorded, I've knit myself 2 pairs of Christmas, well, festive themed socks. I was itching to cast them on, so as soon as I got my November autumn sock plans done, it was on to festive knits. So the first one, and in fact both of them, are done in West Yorkshire spinners. This one, do I have the yarn to hand? Yes, I do. This one is knit in West Yorkshire spinners signature 4-ply, which is a 75% wool, 25% nylon, but which also has a 35% Blueface Leicester content. I really like this base. I had to pause there a moment for ambient noises. So yes, I really like this base, but what I find is that you don't get as much yardage when you're knitting with the West Yorkshire spinners as you do as many other commercial sock yarns, and certainly not the amount of yardage you get with indie dyed yarns as well. Which brings me to a point actually I'm going to touch on briefly. Sometimes I'll watch other podcasters, and they will pick up a yarn and say, oh, I'm not sure whether this is a sport weight or a DK weight or a fingering weight, for example, and they'll look at the yardage and say, oh, well, that must be a sport weight. It depends. It really does depend. It depends upon the sheep breed fibre that is in the yarn. So the yardage on, say, an indie dyed skein of DK weight merino, the yardage will not necessarily be the same as a DK weight commercial yarn made with, I don't know, Finnish sheep wool or Let Lopi or something like that. Or is Let Lopi the DK weight? I think, was that the yarn? Anyway, the Lopi, because all sheep fleeces, the density of the fibre can be different per breed. So for example, this, which has Blueface Leicester in it, compared to say the Regia Ecoline, which I'm actually not sure what breed of sheep they use in the Regia. I suspect it's just a standard or a blend perhaps, I'm not sure. But the yardage on this, what is the yardage on this? Does it even say what the yardage is on this? I'm not sure if it does. Oh yeah, 459 yards, and this one has 437 yards. But they are the same weight. They're 100 grams and they're both fingering weight, and they both knit up the same. The difference is you get less yardage with this because the Blueface Leicester fibre is denser than this. It's kind of like, how much does a pound of coal weigh? Which is lighter, a pound of coal or a pound of feathers? They're both the same, but they will take up a different quantity of space, and it's the same goes for yarn. So when you hear somebody say, oh, this has 400 yards in it, so it must be a fingering weight, generally speaking, yes, but it might not be. It might be a light fingering weight, it might be a sport weight, depending upon the sheep breed that has been used in the yarn. It's just one of my little bugbears sometimes is gauge, and also yardage being compared to the actual, what the thickness of the yarn is. The only way you can truly tell whether it's a DK weight or a sport weight or such like is wraps per inch. Nothing else is really technically true except that. Anyway, getting off my high horse, off my soapbox, this is West Yorkshire Spinners. The main yarn being gingerbread, and the contrast toes and heels being in the colourway Spruce, which is 1006 or 8. It's printed not very well, and the gingerbread is 1109. I have used my usual vanilla sock recipe for this, which if you are not new here, you will hear almost every episode. Turkish cast on, toe up, gusset, eye partridge on the heel, turn stockinette on the heel flap, stockinette up the ankle, and 2x2 rib with a stretchy bind off. I have used a 2.25mm magic loop for the toes, heels and cuff, and then, well, technically it's not magic loop on the cuff, but I've used a long circular on the heel, but I've used a long circular, and on the body of the sock I've used a 9-inch circular, again 2.25mm. And my sock standard on that size is usually 60 stitches around, unless there's some random yarns knit up bigger or smaller, again because of the density of yarn and thickness of the strands themselves. So there's my first pair of socks for this episode, and I also have a second pair of festive socks in West Yorkshire Spinners yarns, because they have brought out some really nice ones the last couple of years. Some of them I'm not overly bothered about. The Fairy Lights colourway, I think it's called Fairy Lights or Christmas Lights, to me doesn't look festive enough, and I don't know, it's because I don't associate kind of like turquoise blue with Christmas, I'm not sure. But the new one for this year, I really do like this one. This is the colourway Yuletide, number 1200, and I think it's an 8. Again, not sure if it's an 8 or a 6 because the printing is not great. Again, West Yorkshire Spinners. This time it is in their sparkle base, and this year this one is in a gold sparkle. Most of them are silver sparkle. I'm not sure if it will focus very well, and whether you can kind of see the sparkle on the green stripes, but it has green stripes interspersed with these variegated sections. And then I've used a plain dark green for the contrast, and for that one I've used the Regia, which I've just shown, the Regia Ecoline. There we go, Regia Eco Line, and it is in the colourway 3004, which I think is just called green. And I have done the exact same recipe for this as I did for the other sock, just vanilla sock, exactly the same as the previous one because it's exactly the same yarn basically. So those are my two finished objects for this episode. I'm not sure whether any more festive socks that I knit will be going in my box of socks. In fact, I might keep these out and just wear these. 1st of December, Christmas socks. These might be going on my feet rather than into my box, so that I can wear them over the festive period. Okay, so what have we got next? Let's go into whips, and apologies for the zip. I wanted to cast on a pair of Wristies that I've been meaning to make for years. The pattern, if I can show it without giving the pattern away, is the Catching Snowflakes Wristies by Tiny Owl Knits. And they are a very pretty wristie with snowflakes on the palms and on the back of the hands, crocheted in mohair. The wristies themselves are knit. There is a cloud come on, so I do apologise if it's gone a little bit dark. So I have finished the wristies and I'm having a few issues with the snowflakes. So the wristies I have finished, and I have made a few changes to them. The original pattern called for 2.75mm for the cuffs and 3.25 for the main body of the wristies. I have done 3mm for the cuff and 3.5mm because when I started knitting them, I knit almost up to the thumb, and I thought I could get them on my hands, but they felt like they could do with just a little bit more ease. I have quite big chunky housewife hands, not delicate little artist hands. So that's what I did. I'm not sure if I gave this any extra length. I don't think I did. I think I just knit them as the pattern stated. The only changes other than the needle size that I did was I knit longer cuffs. I believe I knit longer cuffs. Let me see. Yeah, I did longer ribbing rather for the top of the knuckles and the top of the thumb, because otherwise they would have been kind of just skimming my knuckles, and I wanted them to be covering my knuckles. So that's what I've done there. These are a really nice, very easy pattern. The stitch that's on them, they've got these little, well, I'm assuming like they're supposed to be like little snowflakes. They look like little seed heads or little flowers. They were really easy to do and really easy to memorise, but a little bit fiddly and awkward to do them. No, they weren't fiddly, they were just, to manipulate it was a little bit, a little fiddly, but they were really easy to do, and these knit up really, really fast. I have done the Catching Butterflies by Tiny Owl Knits as well for Mum, and again those knit up really quickly also. The yarn that I've used is just a 50-gram ball, has done these entire pair of wristies, and it is the Debbie Bliss Baby Cash Merino, which I've had in my stash for a very long time, in the colourway 340204, which makes me wonder how many colourways do they actually have. That is a lot. So yeah, and I think this, yeah, this is a merino microfiber cashmere blend, which I didn't know when I actually bought the yarn. I bought two balls, one in the pale blue and one in a light purple, which I knit Mum's wristies with. I'm not usually the biggest fan of microfiber. I wouldn't normally purchase it, but I bought this a very long time ago, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with man-made fibres, don't get me wrong, they have their place, but I wouldn't normally choose a man-made fibre for a garment. It's more what I would use for a blanket, but in wristies it's fine. I wouldn't probably want a man-made fibre around my neck, for example. Although there's nothing, again, it's nothing wrong, it doesn't scratch or anything, but they tend to make you sweat, so I prefer not to. The snowflakes, I'm using, I think this is, yeah, it's the Drops Kid Silk undyed, colour 01, and it is, I'm trying to unfold this little label. It is 75% mohair, 25% silk. Oh, my accent slipped there, didn't it? It got a little broad. But it is just a almost white, slightly creamy white mohair. And I have the centre of one snowflake crocheted. This is a fiddly faff. I'm pretty sure I used the mohair for Mum's butterflies on hers. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble. I started another one with a 2mm crochet hook, and I've moved up to a 3mm, and I think you're supposed to use a 3mm anyway, but I was hoping to make some really tiny little snowflakes for the back of the hand and just larger ones for the centre. But I'm really struggling for light. I have a 2-hour slot in the daytime between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock where I have enough light in the living room coming in through the window beside me to be able to work with tiny, fluffy, where you can't even see the stitches type fluffy. Like, it won't even focus, it's that fluffy. Nope, it's too fluffy. It doesn't like it, it's too blurry. And that's how it feels like with my eyes. And I don't need reading glasses, but at this point I'm thinking a magnifying glass would be a really good call, because I'm really struggling and I'm putting it off, and then I forget about it, and it gets to like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's too dark then. So these have been knit for well over a week, and I still haven't done these snowflakes. Hopefully I will get them done. Whether I will show them on the next podcast, I don't know. Maybe I will, with the snowflakes sewn on. But it's just a bit frustrating that I'm just waiting on this last little step to finish off these wristies that are basically done. So that is my first, I'd say whip, but almost finished object. Okay, what else have we got? We have, what have we got around me? Let's go with something up here. So last episode I showed my witching hour cardigan, and it is coming on quite well. This design is actually a swan shawl, but I'm knitting DK weight, but I'm converting it into a cardigan knit with fingering weight. And I have separated 4 sleeves and are now just up to knitting plain stockinette in the round in the main colour. All the yoke is done and it looks fabulous. I am really happy with this yoke. You can see the steek down the centre there where I will add button bands. And that is the back. Really happy with this. And I'm really happy that I ripped back the small amount that I had done to turn it into a true cardigan rather than fudging it. The yarns that I've used are one of my own hand dyed yarns from when I was dyeing yarn. This is a 100% non-super Welsh blue face Leicester, and the contrast is a 100% Shetland. Again, this is an undyed oatmeal colour. It's a natural coloured yarn, and it has little flecks of greys and beigey browns in it. It makes this lovely oatmeal colour, and it is the Blueface Leicester is a very light fingering weight. It's very much on a par with like the Holst Super Soft, that sort of thinness, and the Shetland is quite a bit fluffier, but mostly because this came on a cone and I've washed the spinning all out of this, so it's it has already all bloomed, so it's quite fluffy. When I block the sweater it should even out really nicely. So where the purple, you can kind of see the light through the stitches. You can't actually see through it when it's against your skin. Really happy with it. And my pattern is Well, I will show the original design as a swan shawl. It is a nice big swan shawl with the yoke coming quite a way down, and it is cropped, and I believe that the sleeves separate around about the bottom of the yoke as well. And it is by Hanneman, is the design, which I wrote down underneath the picture. The design, like I said, is originally a DK weight. I've used a fingering weight, and I have used, I think, a 3.5mm for this. Yes, 3.5mm for the main body, 2.75 for the rib, because the rib is knit in the purple and it is quite fine. I didn't want it to look loose and sloppy. And hopefully by the end of the year I can get this sweater finished. I've been kind of not avoiding, but I've been working on knitting socks for my easy stockinette knitting on an evening. I think because I am alternating skeins with the purple, that I find it slows me down a little bit compared to knitting socks on a 9-inch circle. You can just kind of click, 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 click. So it's taking a little while. Once I get the Christmas sock knitting bug out of my system, I think we'll be fine. And I just need to crack on with it and get the body finished off. Because the sleeves, it doesn't bother me knitting sleeves. For some reason they always feel like they take a long time. But at the same time it doesn't really bother me. So hopefully I can get that done before the end of the year. Because this has been on the needles on and off for at least a couple of years now. Okay, next up, what have we got? Right, this bag. I have been working on a pair of Christmas, more socks, I know. A pair of Christmas socks for John. I don't always knit him socks because he doesn't wear them very often, but he has been wearing them more lately because it has been cold and they have been helping, which is why I'm going to knit him a box of socks for next year, and he won't be quite so precious about the few pairs he's got and keeping them for best and they're too good to wear for work, that sort of thing. So I have made it my Christmas pair, which is the sock is too long for the sock blocker. And I have only knit the first sock. This is the first one. I have yet to cast on the second one. They are rather large and I knit them much longer than mine, obviously. There was a bit of trial and error, and this heel has been knit 4 times, which I'll come to in a moment. So I have done my usual sock recipe with a slight change in that I've done slip stitches on the heel flap, and I have knit the sock considerably longer. I have knit 60 or almost 60 rounds for the ankle, where I normally do 40 for my own socks, 20 rounds for the cuff, and the body of the sock I did 60 rounds before I knit the gusset, and I did 20 increases either side for the gusset. So let me show you the yarns, then I'll explain the heel situation. So the main sock yarn is one that I got in a set. I have no idea why that's wound off. One that I got in a set 2 years ago, I think. It was the Head Over Heels Stylecraft Christmas set, and there were 4 balls of yarn. There was, including this one, which is the colourway Vixen, and that is the label Stylecraft Head Over Heels Little Robin on, and it shows the stripes on the ball band, which is always appreciated when a colourway does that. So I have quite a bit left. I'm not sure whether I'll have enough left of this to knit a second pair of socks down the line, because I'm using considerably more yarn. Apologies if you can hear the jigsaw outside. The contrast toes and heels is another Regia Eco line, this time in colour 3003, and it is not focusing on the label, it wants to focus on me. There we go, and it is in the colourway, I don't even know if it has a colourway name, red, burgundy, I'm not sure, but it is a nice shade of burgundy, not too maroon, not too plum. So the heel, let me see if I can get this to focus on the heel, because the light is up and down in here today. I have eye of partridge on the bottom and slip stitch columns up the heel. So I started knitting the heel and decided to carry on the eye of partridge up the back of the heel. And at this point I had less gusset stitches. I ended up pulling this sock back to before the gusset. Making the eye of partridge was making the heel very short, the heel flap at the back, and I didn't like it, so I pulled it back. I thought I will try slip stitch columns, which I did, and I thought it's still really short. I think I'm doing these slip stitches wrong. So I watched Crazy Sock Lady's tutorial on how to do a heel flap and realised that I'd been twisting the stitches for the heel flap, for the slip stitches. I was slipping them knit-wise instead of purl-wise. So that was twisting the stitches and making them shorter. So I tried knitting it again, and I still wasn't happy with it. It was still a bit short. And when I tried the sock on, I knit up here, and when I tried the sock on, I felt the sock could do with being a little longer. So I ended up pulling back here and knitting less stitches on the foot and then more stitches for the gusset, which would give me extra height for the heel. I have tried this on John. I think that's 3 times I've spoken about. It was done 4 times. I can't remember why there was a 4th. When I tried it on John, I still feel like the heel flap could be taller. I hope that noise isn't too irritating on camera. I don't really want to stop recording because I don't know how long it will take him to finish what he's doing. Yes, I feel like the heel could be a little taller. If I bring it back onto here, you can see it's only that tall. And John has very big heels. And the reason I've got such a big gusset on this is he's very wide, very high. No, he hasn't got very high arches. He has very prominent heels, which makes the distance across here quite large. And also that means that the heel flap it's not sitting at the crease of his heel. It's not covering that area where your shoe would rub. So in future, honestly, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I don't really want to make the gusset any wider. My other option would be to knit a stockinette heel flap, which is what I would do for my shoes, my socks, but I don't wear them in shoes that often, whereas he will be wearing his in his boots to go to work. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to do. But I am struggling to find the time to be able to knit these when he is not at home, because I want them to be a surprise, the finished items to be a surprise. And although he's tried them on, he's had to close his eyes whilst I try them on his foot. So that is John's Christmas socks, and one of his, what would be his, like, maybe solstice present, I'm not sure yet. So what do we have left? We have a garment. Let's go with a garment. I did pause there briefly. The soaring was really getting on my nerves. I have watched back a little bit of video and it doesn't seem too noisy on the video, but it is quite loud here in person. So last year I did knit a red and white cardigan, Christmas cardigan, and this year I'm knitting a blue and white sweater in the same design. So this is how far I've gotten so far, and I absolutely love it. This is the Boreal sweater by Kit Davies. It looks even better on camera than it does in real life. That looks fabulous. I love it. I did actually get further than this, and I have ripped back a bit this morning. So I have separated for sleeves, and I had knit another 2 inches on the body of this. But when I tried it on this morning, it was a bit small. I mean, it fit, but there was like no positive ease to it. So I pulled back to where I've separated for the sleeves. It's just on the cables. There is no underarm stitches just yet, and I will knit the row where you separate for the sleeves and add extra stitches under the arms. I have adapted this pattern, of course. The original design, like I said, is by Kate Davies, and it is a very fitted sweater as designed, and the underarms are very high up in the armpits. It is proportionate wise not great for anybody who's not petite. In reality, the proportions are a bit strange. So what I've done is I've used the stitch counts for another design that I've knit before that I do like the fit of, and that is the Skogenfjall sweater by, who is it by? I'm not sure if I have the designer written down for this pattern, and the print is a little bit faded now. I will put the designer's name up on the screen, but the Skogenfjall is a really nice colourwork sweater. Let me see if I can show it. With this very, the sun is shining strange now, very traditional tree design in the yoke. I will adjust my camera. So I did knit that a while back, and in a very similar weight yarn, so that I decided to use the stitch count for the sweater. But as I found, my gauge must be slightly different because the sweater has come up smaller than the Skogenfjall did. So the yarns I've used are both Drops Nepal. One of them is just Drops Nepal White, which is 1101, and the blue, which I seem to have lost, is number 1709. Again, Drops Nepal, and the fibre content is 65% wool, 35% alpaca. Now my Skogenfjall that I knit was in the Drops Alaska, which is just 100% wool, but both of them, the Nepal and the Alaska, are Aran weight, but they are both quite a heavy Aran weight. Admittedly, the Alaska is slightly heavier than the Nepal. It is thicker yarn, and they are both heavy Aran weight. So I should have took that into account really, but because of the pattern, the way the colourwork works out is no matter which size you make, you always have one of these snowflakes in the middle and two either side on the back, and the same goes for the front. The only difference is the amount of stitches in between the big snowflakes. There is more stitches for bigger sizes and so on, and I could have done more stitches in between. I could have used a different chart. I think I've used the smallest chart because my gauge is so very different to the original design. So the gauge for the original design is, well, you have two gauges. You can either knit it at a 4.5 stitch gauged per inch or a 4 stitch per inch, and that's what makes 8 size choices for this pattern compared to just 4. It's not a great size range. It's okay. It's kind of standard average. It ranges from a 34.5 inch bust to a 50 inch bust, which used to be the standard size range. Things have improved since then, and kind of standard is coming up more like a 60 inch bust, but this is an older pattern. It's not old, but it is from a few years ago. So like I said, I decided to use the Skogenfjall gauge and stitch count, but it was coming up a bit small, so I've pulled it back, and where I did 10 stitches under each underarm, I think I'm going to go with 17. That will give me 2 extra inches on both sides, so an extra 4 inches of positive ease, because this was basically, it wasn't negative ease, but there was no ease in it at all. Well, maybe an inch at a push. It wasn't stretching out the stitches, but there was no extra room, and that was without a t-shirt underneath. That was just in my underwear. So an extra 4 inches should make it much more comfortable, and it will make the top of the sleeves feel much more comfortable too. But it is knitting up quite quickly because of the gauge that it is at, so hopefully I can get through the colourwork, the rest of the colourwork chart within the next, I would say 4 days comfortably, and then it is just stocking it on the body. There is more colourwork for the sleeves, obviously, because I have only done the top half of the chart, and with this design you are knitting it like a mirror image. So the top half of the chart is knit with one colour and your contrast colour, and then you get halfway down and it flips so that your contrast colour becomes your main colour and your main becomes your contrast. And it does the same on the sleeves as well. Although I think the chart on the sleeves is slightly different. It has a few more extra little snowflakes added. So that is my main cast on and my main work in progress. On an evening I try to do a few rows on the colourwork chart and then do some stockinette once I've basically had enough of reading charts for the evening. But it has been mostly working on a stockinette sock that I've been reaching for, rather than my witching hour cardigan, which is really what I should be reaching for. Although I did say to a friend earlier on that the word should is a bad word. So I should be working on my cardigan, but what I want to do is work on my socks. So that is what I'm doing. I think, is that everything? Let's see, John's sock, witching hour, sweater, socks I've completed, Wristies. Oh, hang on, I have another bag here. What's in this bag? I have another sock. Of course I have, because that's the sock I've been working on in an evening instead of working on my witching hour cardigan. I did cast myself on another vanilla sock, because I have no willpower when it comes to Christmas socks, actually socks generally. I'm not finished the first one yet, and I am using up some sock yarn that I used to knit a pair of socks 2 years ago, I think. So actually, funnily enough, this is another West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas colourway. They're all coming out this year. This one is in the colourway Candy Cane, and for the contrast toes and heels I have just used the Regia undyed yarn, which is my preferred white, it's not really white, but undyed yarn for socks. If there's a nice colourway and I don't want to detract from it, or if it's a lighter one, then more often than not I will reach for an undyed yarn, and the past couple of years that's been the Regia undyed. It's nice and hard wearing, and I just really like the Regia yarn. The cuffs, I am still using up some undyed merino bamboo that I have a small amount left of. That is not hardy enough for the toes and heels, but on the cuff is perfectly fine, so I will be using this for the cuffs on these socks, and I think that'll pretty much use up what I have left of that. Merino bamboo, normally I would only use that for anything that isn't going to get rubbed or worn out. I do have some merino, no, I knit a merino bamboo sweater, and it's lovely, but I would normally recommend merino bamboo for something more like cowls, hats, that sort of thing, that isn't going to get rubbed. Whereas a sweater, you get it like pilling under the arms. You're not really going to get that with a cowl. So a cuff of a sock is the perfect location. It doesn't really get rubbed unless you're wearing, I don't know, hiking boots or something like that. So that is my only other work in progress, and it's my, I'm too tired to knit anything that involves brain power. This is what I will reach for, and I'm getting close to knitting the cuff on this. I just have to remember to choose the right yarn to work with for that. And hopefully I have enough for the second sock. I will probably weigh this when I finish recording, and look on my Ravelry to check how much I had left before I began. Why can I feel a small ball in there? I've wound some off. I must have tried to make my socks matching on the last pair and left a little bit in there, so I'll have to remember to take that into account as well, because I don't want mismatched socks. Because it depends, they've either got to be completely mismatched or not mismatched at all. There is no slightly off middle ground. That would bother me. Okay, so I think that's everything for this episode. Let's talk December briefly. So I did Vlogtober this year, and sometimes I do Vlogmas. I haven't had a lot of success with Vlogmases in the past. Last year I did 12 days of Vlogmas, which worked out really well, because I only had to record 12 days out of the 24. Previous Vlogmases, there was one Vlogmas I managed one video. And I've done weekly ones before, and I think the first Vlogmas was quite successful as well. I didn't record every day, but I did quite a few. This year I'm not currently planning to do vlogs, well, daily vlogs for Vlogmas. We've got a lot on, and I just don't think I have the time to do all the editing and such like. I may do some vlogging, less frequent vlogging in December if I have something worthy of recording, or maybe a weekly vlog with Christmassy bits that I've been doing. I'm not sure. Basically I'm winging December. I have no idea, but I currently don't have any plans to do like a 12 days of Vlogmas or basically daily vlogging. I don't have any plans for a daily vlogs. That doesn't mean there won't be weekly ones, but I don't know about daily ones, and I'm just not sure what I'm doing. I do have a couple more videos I'm planning to put out in December. I have my box of socks review. Probably the light is coming in weird again. My box of socks review, of all the socks that I knit through the year for my box of socks. I will probably record another podcast episode in December, and at the end of December I'll have my Make 9 for next year. And then anything else in between will be like a vlog type episode, but like I said, I'm not sure what those will look like currently. I'm hoping to do more vlogging next year. I'm planning on doing a bit more kind of life vlogs as well, what we're doing on the homestead and growing, and what we're growing and things like that, or what craft stuff that I'm doing, or homesteady type kitcheny stuff. Oh, that sort of a range of stuff, in between other like knitting episodes and such like. I'm just gonna play around with it, because I don't have to rely upon my channel for a living or to promote my business anymore, because I don't have my own business anymore. So my channel is my passion project. It's not a necessity as such. I want it to be enjoyable for me. Otherwise, I won't. If I'm not enjoying doing something, I won't want to do it. So I'm going to follow my inspiration next year. And next year we are planning on focusing a bit more on our food growing. It's kind of lapsed a little bit the last couple of years, and we've had a couple of really bad growing seasons. So I want to do a little bit of that, I think, as well. So I think that's all the news, really, what's going on around here. There's nothing new taking place since I last recorded. So I think I will leave this here. This is going to be a bit longer than I originally planned, which is usually the case. So I do apologise for that if it's a little bit longer. So I will see you, or speak to you, in my next video, which hopefully won't be very long. Vlogmas is just around the corner, and I'm looking forward to seeing several other podcasters' Vlogmas videos and having the time to watch them and enjoy them this year without having to focus too much on recording for myself and editing and such like. So yes, I will speak to you next video. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.